Hey, it's Eric with Jazz Wealth Managers. I had somebody that submitted an email to us that made a recommendation. You can do that also below. You can always let us know in the comments what kind of video you want us to make. Always looking for ideas and things that I can put out, make sure that I'm educating on your dough. So today I want to talk about where to put your next dollar. So when it comes to that, for the person, I will shoot you an email, tell you thank you, and that this video is coming out. But when it comes to this, what they had asked was, they said, well, they'd love to hear my take on where to put the next dollar. Now, this is all going to vary, and it can all depend on your scenario, who you are, where everything comes in. If you're 20 years old and you just inherited $400,000, that's a different scenario than somebody who's 20 years old and maybe just finishing college and maybe coming out with $100,000 in student loan debt. So this is going to be very vague when it comes to that. But instead of always just talking about just where to put your next dollar, I'd really like to talk about what I'd like to see by age for you and how you should be handling your dough. So first, let's go over to the handy dandy board. And what I want to talk about is the first thing is, where should you put your next dollar? Well, I think that this goes for everybody for the most part. I say for the most part because as a planner and doing financial investing and money management, I get a little, I never want to blanket advise something. When that happens, that tends to be saying that you're not unique. And you know what? I think that you are a unique person. I know my mom always told me I was a little bit off or different, whatever the case is. So, hey, I'll just call myself unique. All right, anyways. So the way this works though, what I like to see when it comes to actual investing, and then I'll break down the rest of what I want to share. So the first thing you should always do is make sure you have an emergency fund or some cash aside. I mean, that's just a given. So you want to make sure that you've got the money there. If you don't have money there, you got a bunch of high credit card debt, make sure you're getting that taken care of. But from there, when it comes to the investing side of things, what I really like to see is if you have a job, let's say a 401k, take the match. Take the match. What that means is if they give 3% to you, then you better put 3% in, because now you got 6% going towards your retirement versus only 3% or versus none. So that's always an opportunity that you've got to do. The second thing you should do, once you've done that, start thinking about, especially if you're younger, the Roth option, things like that, allows for a lot of long-term growth that's all going to be tax-free. So start considering a Roth IRA. Now, if you make over the Roth IRA limit, there's other options, the backdoor Roth IRA, all kinds of cool little strategies, but that's something to consider there. From there, once you've maxed those out, then you can start talking about a taxable account or an individual account or a joint account, depending on what you got, if you're married or not. What is this? Saying married, taxable. This is what that's going to be. So it can really depend, but it's one of these types of accounts. That's going to be money that you can actually put in, and it can be liquid. You can always access that money. Gosh, I couldn't hardly talk. So you can almost always get that money. It should be liquid when it comes to things. What we do with those, this is just a little side note, but what we do with those is if you have over $150,000 in an individual or a taxable account, you can actually borrow against that. So it's a pretty cool thing that we offer here at Jazz. But when it comes to where you should put your next dollar, depending on age, let me just break this down a little bit further on a different take than maybe what most people are talking about. So by age, let's say in your 20s, what should you be doing with your money? Well, yes, if you can get started saving early, that is awesome. But the big thing that I want to see for somebody in their 20s is something that I think is one of the smartest things, and that is invest in yourself. The thing about it is that in the end, it is up to you to take responsibility to get to where you want to be. Nobody's going to do it for you. They can actually help you. There can be some mentors that come along and encourage you and get you to a certain place. But in the end, it's up to you to get to the finish line. So by investing in yourself, finding mentors, doing different things, that allows you that opportunity. It could be taking different certificate courses or taking certain courses. If it's going to college, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, whatever the case is, yes, you're going to have to go to college and invest in yourself. But what if you're wanting to just make some good money and you're wanting to go out in the world and work. Well, you know what? Maybe you can learn a trade, but you can go and get a bit better at that. Take different things to learn the mastery of that trade. Something that I did back when I was in my early 20s, I was a firefighter. And as a firefighter, instead of going and just getting all of these crazy college courses and degrees and master's degrees and things like that, I started taking courses that applied so that I could actually promote up in the fire department. So it was more of certificate courses versus focusing on actually getting an entire degree at that time. So that's an idea for you in your 20s. Now, what about in your 30s? Once you hit your 30s, there we go. Once you hit your 30s, you got to start taking it a little bit more serious. You really need to make sure, if you haven't started, that you're focusing on your dough. Now, we could always say that you should be focusing on your dough. Don't get me wrong with that. But in your 30s, that's the game time. That's the time that you're actually going to hit in life where potentially you're getting married, maybe you're not, maybe you're starting to have kids, maybe you're not. All depends on your scenarios. But for me, I'll say that was where I was at. And with that, it's, hey, you know, what do we need to be doing? Because there's going to be a lot going on. You're actually starting to get into some good opportunities, hopefully working a job, working your way up. So you're making a little bit of extra money. So you got to start focusing on your dough, making sure you're taking care of that. Once you hit your 40s, hopefully by your 40s, if you did what I said in your 30s, then where you're going to be at is what I would call the evaluation phase. So in the evaluation phase, this is a great time in your 40s to really take a snapshot of exactly where you are financially. Take a look at your dough. Maybe you need to press the gas a little harder. You've got to get really serious about this. Put a lot more money away if you want to meet your goals. Let's say you want to retire at 60 years old or whatever the case is. But what if you're overfunding? I talked about that before in another video. And the thing is that some people I'm seeing in their 40s are actually way ahead. And they've given up so much of their life and sacrificing and just living paycheck to paycheck just because they're wanting to save so much money. But in the end, they're missing out on a lot of things. Maybe it's the vacations with the family. You can't get that back. So make sure you're doing that evaluation phase, especially in the 40s. You're starting to get a little bit of gray hair on you maybe. I'm getting there. And so that's one to look at in your 40s. 50s. This is the one where I'm going to tell you, hopefully you're good. Hopefully. But if you're not, don't beat yourself up. It's just time to really start working on things. Don't give up. It's never too late, but you may have to get a little creative. If you haven't started doing a financial plan by this phase, it's game time. Even if you've worked and all you've had was your job, your 401k, your job, and now you're looking at, hey, you know what, in the next couple years, I want to start retiring. Well, you might want to start thinking about that financial plan, because you can start looking at different strategies to make sure that, first of all, you'll be able to access your plan, your 401k plan when you retire. A lot of people can get that at 55 years old. Some people can't, though. So you have to look at that. Are you going to roll it all over to an IRA? Well, if you roll it at 55 and you're retired, then you can't access that money except for with the Rule 72T. So there's a lot of things and a lot of different things you want to look at in your 50s, making sure if you haven't done the plan, you're doing that. So those are some different things. I hope that that was a little different take on where to put all of your dough by age, but let me know what you think about it in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you want to watch more FinTips videos, click here. Be sure to like and subscribe also.